OCO, for too many generations, citizens of federally recognized tribal nations around the country, including Cherokee Nation citizens, saw their language, their culture, and their forms of artistic expression suppressed and eroded by policies of the United States. You can take action today to protect Cherokee artists and Native artists across Indian country. Last week, I sent a letter urging Congress to strengthen the federal Indian Arts and Crafts Act by stripping protection from members of so-called state tribes. I called for Congress to include these changes in the proposed Artist Act. The Indian Arts and Crafts Act is a truth in advertising law intended to protect Indian artists and consumers. Unfortunately, the law defines the words Indian and Indian tribe too broadly. Instead of reserving the label of Indian art to members of federally recognized tribes, current law extends that protection to state-recognized tribes. The problem is state tribes are fake tribes, and members of state-recognized tribes are not Native American. Ever heard of the Cherokee tribe of Northeast Alabama or the Four Winds Cherokees of Louisiana? How about the United Cherokee Nation? The list of fake tribes goes on and on. These are phony organizations who've sought and received state recognition in order to legitimize themselves. Rather than earn federal recognition through a rigorous examination of history, facts, and the law, these groups pose as tribes and perpetuate a fraud. These fake tribes try to access the unique laws designed to deliver justice and fairness for legitimate tribes and their citizens, including the important protections of the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. State tribes also undermine the culture and traditions of actual Indian tribes. There are at least 8 state-recognized groups across the country who make a false claim to Cherokee history and culture. These groups pose as Cherokee tribes and issue membership cards, usually for a fee. Unfortunately, the Indian Arts and Crafts Act, a law intended to protect Native artists, helps these tribes in their quest for legitimacy. Under the law, artists with memberships in these fraudulent organizations compete alongside Cherokee citizens in selling art under the federally protected Indian art label. This is an offense to our ancestors, an offense to our artists, and confusing to art consumers. As chief, I will not tolerate it. So let's do something about it. Let's tell Congress that our ancestors endured too much to allow fake tribes to undermine our culture and lifeways. Let's tell Congress that our artists, and artists in all federally recognized tribes, deserve to be respected. Let's tell Congress that if a person is going to sell their art as Indian art, they ought to at least be Indian. I'm asking you to join me and Deputy Chief Brian Warner in calling on Congress to end protections for state tribes under the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. Let's tell Congress the law must be changed in order to protect actual Cherokees, including thousands of Cherokee artists, artisans, and craftspeople who are citizens in the Cherokee Nation or members of the Eastern or United Keetoowah bands of Cherokee Indians. We must ensure their arts and crafts are the only works permitted to be presented as Cherokee. We must also ensure that these protections extend only to citizens of the 574 federally recognized tribes. Tribes like the Cherokee Nation, which has been continuously federally recognized since the founding of the country, and other tribes and bands recognized later under federal law, are legitimate tribes. If groups posing as tribes under state law want the unique protections and opportunities available to Indian tribes, including protections for Indian artists, these groups should go through the rigorous process of federal recognition. The Senate Committee on Indian Affairs is seeking comment on the proposed Artist Act of 2023. The deadline to let your voice be heard is Friday, April the 14th. You can visit the Cherokee Nation's Citizen Action website, shown here, to download a template letter showing support for strengthening the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. Email your letter and comments to artist@indian.senate.gov. Again, the deadline is April the 14th. So visit our Civic Action page today, download and use the template, and email it to our federal leaders. Deputy Chief Brian Warner and I took an oath of office to preserve and defend Cherokee sovereignty and culture. This responsibility, combined with the many examples of tribes falsely claiming Cherokee culture and history, compels us to speak up to federal leaders. We need your help. Genuine Native artists across Cherokee Nation and across the country need your help. Now is the time to push for meaningful changes in federal law that gives Indian artists the respect and protection they deserve. This is a rare opportunity to make change. Taking action takes just a moment of your time. Please join Deputy Chief Warner and I in this effort by writing the Senate Indian Affairs Committee by April the 14th. Wado.